Koha 3.8. One of Koha's overarching default categories for patrons is staff. The staff patron category has the ability to access the staff client if given the proper permissions. So adding a staff patron into Koha is very similar to adding an adult, except that you need to consider the permission level. So let's take a look. We're going to log into the staff client, and we're going to go to the patron module. From here, I'm going to choose New Patron and then Staff. If you scroll down on this form, you're going to notice all the same fields that are there for an adult patron. It's the same exact form. The difference is going to be what comes after this. So let's create a patron here. We're just going to create a generic circulation login, for example. So we'll say circulation staff. You can organize that however you want. We don't need to enter in any of this other information. Card number, it does require a card number, but if you don't want to give them a real card number, you can just create your own generic like circ123 or something like that. Choose the branch where this circ login is going to be used, and make sure the category is under Koha's staff heading. Koha's headings are in bold and italics in this pull-down menu, so we do have a staff type here. Next, for staff, you want to make sure you set your patron categories for staff to have a long expiration date so that you don't have to keep renewing their cards. That's a little annoying. You can also enter your own if you don't have the default set. So I could come here and jump a few years and put in that expiration date there. So you can handle it however you'd like. You can also create logins for each staff member. Many libraries like to do it that way because then they can track who's doing what when. But sometimes at the circulation desk, that doesn't quite work. So it's very common to have some sort of general circ login like I'm creating here, which then means I have to fill in a login. So this is the OPAC/staff login section. If this were a patron, we'd be putting in their OPAC login, but because this is a staff member, we're entering information they need to log into the staff client. They will be able to use the same information to log into the OPAC if they want to, but in this case, we're doing staff patron and staff login. You're going to want to make sure you choose something nice and secure, and you want to make sure that your librarians don't have the password laying around so that patrons can find it. Otherwise, any patron who with a web browser will be able to access your staff client if they have this information. Once done, we hit save. I only put in minimal information because this is a staff patron and we don't need information like email address and phone number and all that. We just needed the login so that they could get into the staff client. But they can't do that yet. Just because of the staff type doesn't mean they automatically can log in. What we need to do now is set their permissions. This is found under the More menu, and then we choose Set Permissions. From here, we're going to be presented with a list of all the different permissions we can provide this staff member. At the absolute minimum, every staff member must have the catalog permission. This is not cataloging. This is access to the staff catalog. So you need to make sure everyone has that permission. Now, this is a circulation librarian, so I'm going to give them the circulation permissions, the ability to modify borrowers, which are patrons or your members, however you want to word that. The ability to place holds for patrons, that's kind of important. And the ability to accept fine from the patron. And then I'm going to allow them to execute reports. That means run reports, but they're not going to be able to create them themselves. And then I click Set Flags. Once you've done that, now this login will work when they come to the staff client and try to log in. So let's take a look. We'll log out of the user we're logged in as. We'll come here and we'll enter our new username and password. And we see a different screen than when I logged in the first time as the super librarian. This time I'm seeing only the areas that I have permission to access. And that's all that's needed in order to add a staff patron to Koha 3.8.